Teachers, are you frustrated when your students just don't seem to understand what you're trying to teach them? Are you tired of your students not participating in class because they think it's boring? Are you struggling to ensure that students across the learning spectrum are benefiting from your lecture? Reaching all of your students with the course material is such a chore, but not anymore. This is Universal Design for Learning, a revolution in curriculum development. According to the Center for Applied Special Technology, Universal Design for Learning, commonly known as UDL, is a set of principles for curriculum development that give all individuals equal opportunities to learn. UDL is a much more personalized approach to education that considers a child's strengths, needs, and limitations in the curriculum development process. UDL's flexibility reduces barriers in instruction and gets rid of the one-size-fits-all model of curriculum development. Average is no longer the norm in classrooms. Children across the learning spectrum represent diversity, acceptance, and variation in the classroom. UDL's 3 principles could be a great addition to your classroom. Principle 1 will allow you to provide multiple means of representation. Everyone learns differently, and UDL lets you acknowledge a variety of learning styles and implement techniques and strategies that reach all types of learners. By changing what teaching methods you use in your classroom, an external approach, we guarantee that you will see more use of language and facilitate transfer of learning and overall increased comprehension and internal change. Principle 2 will allow you to provide multiple means of action and expression. Not all students can express themselves fluently through verbal communication. UDL incorporates a variety of expressive strategies that allow you as a teacher to truly understand how much learning is being done. When you physically change the way children respond to material, you're bound to see increases not only in expression and communication, but also in executive functioning. The third and final principle will allow you to provide multiple means of engagement for your students. Some students find certain methods of teaching enjoyable, while others might dread it. By introducing novel concepts and strategies for learning, you can create an atmosphere for learning that's exciting and motivating. Providing multiple options for means of engagement is UDL's attempt to facilitate self-regulation and inclusivity. Teachers, you can act today to recruit interest, sustain effort and persistence, and facilitate self-regulation. Are you still not sold on how amazing UDL is? Let's compare the traditional approach to curriculum development to UDL's approach, as stated on the Center for Applied Special Technology's website online module. The traditional approach assumes that student diversity is a problem and that barriers to learning are inherent in the capacities of the learners. UDL's approach assumes that student diversity is the norm and that barriers to learning arise in the learner's interactions with the inflexible, one-size-fits-all curricula. And that goes back to the recognition networks, which present information and content in different ways so that children with a variety of learning styles have access to the material in a way that makes the most sense to them. The traditional approach also assumes that the curriculum is fixed and that accommodations and modifications must be made in order to deal with the student diversity. The UDL approach assumes that the inflexible curriculum is disabled and that curriculum need to be designed or redesigned to meet the needs of a wide diversity of students from the start. And that relates to the strategic networks, which make sure that children are able to express their knowledge through means that work best for them. How the child's able to express their ideas should not be limited to one right or wrong method. There should be wiggle room to allow for the child to perform the task per their individual needs. Finally, the traditional approach says that accommodations and modifications can result in lowered expectations and achievement for some learners. The UDL approach designs curricula from the start that is both flexible and meets the needs of all of the students, resulting in higher expectations for all learners. The effective networks find ways to encourage students to participate and motivate them to want to learn. Finding ways to make sure that the child feels good about themselves and the learning process helps to not facilitate frustration by limiting the ability of the child to learn by only providing them with minimal ways to comprehend and express the material. Let's listen to a testimonial from a student, Adam, who's going to explain the changes in his life after his teacher started using UDL concepts.
I've always had trouble keeping up in class. I could never pay attention to the boring lectures, and it was really hard for me to take notes. Once my teacher started to use other ways besides lectures and textbooks to teach our class, things got so much better for me. Now my teacher uses fun games, iPads, group activities, and summary videos to help us all learn. I don't feel left out anymore because I can't keep up with my other classmates. I understand that we all learn differently.
Well, teachers, there you have it. Universal Design for Learning's 3 principles can exponentially increase the amount of comprehension, expression, and motivation you see in your students. Whether it be gifted students, students with disabilities, or a student with typical learning behaviors, UDL is the best program for you in your classroom. Remember to refer to the UDL checklist when you're designing your next curricula. Don't worry, your lessons don't need to address all of the criteria. But the more guidelines you're able to meet, the more supportive your lessons will be for the students in your diverse classroom. I hope that this infomercial provided you with helpful information about UDL, its 3 principles, and the benefits of applying them to your classroom. Thanks for listening.